Skeletons of the Marital Closet by Tang. Chapter 1521. When they arrived, everything had ended. Fortunately, Joshua is okay. Natalie is really insane. She targeted my goddaughter and my godson. Even if she's buried in the ground, I'll dig her up to beat her up, Summer remarked with a disdainful expression. Shawn narrowed his eyes slightly. Godson? Summer nodded. Yeah? Was Joshua's identity not revealed when Natalie held him hostage? Why did Shawn still show a surprised expression? He glanced at Gale. When did you consider him your godson? Did you get anyone's permission? I got Joshua's mom's permission. Shawn inquired further. Do you know Molly? Summer was almost choked. Huh? Even Joe looked bewildered. What happened to Shawn? Why did he suddenly turn stupid? I planned to acknowledge Joshua as my godson. I didn't expect you to beat me to it, Shawn said lightly. Summer and Joe exchanged glances. What was going on? Well, Shawn, you should have some idea that Joshua is your son, right? Joshua rubbed his nose. I know. Joe breathed a sigh of relief. That's good. However, that was just a fabricated lie to trick Natalie. It was a tactical move. If Joshua didn't admit he was my son, how would Natalie spare Gale and use him as a hostage? Shawn explained. Joe and Summer both looked at Gale as if saying, Whoa, you hid it so well before that even the truth is not believable. They were curious how Gale would handle that. What are you all staring at Gale for? Is there something strange about her? Shawn raised an eyebrow. Gale bit her lip in regret, gently tugging at his sleeve. Shawn. Joshua is your son. Like a godson? Not a godson, a biological son, Gale emphasized. Joe could barely hold back his laughter, but dared not to laugh out loud. He had to suppress it by coughing, pretending to be serious. Summer's face twitched. She did not want to laugh, but she could not help it. Gale took a deep breath, looked at him, and said, Shawn, Joshua is your biological son. Biological son? Yes, if you still don't believe it, you can go for a paternity test, Gale answered confidently. Shawn's face turned dark, making Gale extremely nervous. She had not seen him like that in a long time. Chapter 1522. Whenever he faced her, he would suppress all his hostility and temperament, revealing only his tenderness and thoughtfulness. He looked quiet, intimidating now. Gale swallowed hard. When Joshua was held hostage, I told you you were his father. You didn't believe me. You thought it was a plot to trick Natalie into exchanging hostages. I didn't have time to explain. I didn't expect you to not believe me. There was no brilliant scheme, just plain facts, she continued. She glanced at Shawn. He remained silent, his Adam's apple moving up and down. Now, you should believe me, right? Joshua is really your son. He's Nicole's older brother, born a few minutes earlier, mumbled Gale. Back then, I was carrying twins, Joshua and Nicole. Shawn looked at her. As they made eye contact, Gale could not help but shiver. His incredibly sharp gaze made her feel uneasy no matter how many times she saw it. His aura was too powerful. So you're Molly? Is that right? Shawn's eyes deepened. Gale nodded. Yes. I went to the small town, going through great efforts just to see someone, and it turns out to be you. Gaily, you hid so well. At that moment, everything became clear to Shawn. He always knew Joshua was Molly's son, but he did not know Molly was Gale. Every time when he mentioned Molly, Gale got upset with him. He was kept in the dark from beginning to end. I have my reasons to. Let's talk about this privately, okay? Joe and Summer were still here. She needed to apologize, lower her head, and coax her husband, but she had to do it at home, behind closed doors. How could she do it in front of others? Joe and Summer tried to suppress their laughter, enjoying the spectacle. Gale, in her heart, sighed silently. She knew this day would come. Shawn's reaction was similar to what she expected. However, Gale suddenly looked up. Gazing at Joe, she smiled. Joe, isn't this interesting? No, it's not. What's interesting about it? Joe put on a serious face. Congratulations, Shawn. You have both a son and a daughter. You have won the race. Gale smiled even sweeter. Thank you for your blessings. However, isn't it a bit late? Joe's heart skipped a beat. He understood Gale's plan. She wanted to drag him into this. Joe was the first to know that Joshua was Shawn and Gale's son. He had discovered it back in the small county town. No wonder Gale laughed so cunningly. Joe struggled to control his expression, shifting the topic. Since everything is fine, I think Summer and I will take our leave. We won't cause you any trouble by staying here. The two of us can't help much. Summer chimed in. Yes, we'll come back to see him when Joshua wakes up. Chapter 1523. The two of them turned around simultaneously. They felt fleeing was the best option since Summer also knew Joshua's identity long ago. The whole world knew except for Shawn. Moreover, when Natalie revealed Joshua's identity, she directly told Shawn, but he still did not believe it. It could only prove that Gale concealed Joshua's identity too well. So well that even if Gale said it out loud, Shawn instinctively felt it was false. Stop. Don't even think about running away, Shawn said. Joe and Summer's steps came to an abrupt halt. We're just causing too much trouble here. Shawn, we'll come back later. Joe began, but Shawn interrupted. When did you find out? Okay, there was no escaping this. Joe turned around, looking at Gale. Gale shrugged. Shawn could not be mad at her alone. No one should think about running away. Let them all face Shawn's wrath together. Well, you see, I wanted to tell you, but as an outsider, I don't have the right to tell you that Joshua is actually your son, right? Joe started lying. I think Gale must personally tell you this news. Who knew she kept it so well hidden? How could I meddle in others' affairs? Shawn did not buy his act and repeated, When did you find out about Joshua's true identity? Joe's eyes wandered around, avoiding eye contact. He chuckled. Just a while ago. A while ago? When exactly? Just recently. I knew a bit earlier than you. Joe chuckled again. He gestured a small bit with his hand. Shawn remained expressionless. Is that so? Yes. Joe nodded vigorously. You know me. I can't keep a secret with my big mouth. I can't keep it to myself. It will make me sick. Shawn looked at Gale. Is he telling the truth? Joe desperately signaled to Gale with his eyes, pleading with clasped hands. Please don't betray me. Help me. Pissing off Shawn is never a good idea. Unfortunately, it did not work. Gale felt that they should all go down together. She was not the only one hiding Joshua's identity. So many people around Shawn knew and kept it a secret. Shawn's anger and temper would not be concentrated on her alone. Joe, given the situation, it's better to tell the truth now, Gale replied. Joe stammered speechlessly. Shawn's sharp gaze turned to him. You dare lie to me? No, no, no. Joe waved his hands. Well, you see, I wanted to say the first time I knew Joshua was your son was. He began to cough forcefully. He could not say it. Once he did, he was done for. Shawn remembered grudges. While Shawn would not harm his wife, he would definitely harm him. You've suddenly got tuberculosis? Do you need to get an x-ray? Shawn said coldly. Seeing that he could not escape, Joe confessed. Chapter 1524. I was the first one to know. When you went to look for Molly, I found out that Joshua is Gale's son, Joe answered. Shawn narrowed his eyes. You knew back then? At that time, he did not even know if Gale was still alive, let alone he had a child. He was just looking for Molly. Joe nodded. To be more precise, it was the day you had Joshua locked in the hotel room, using all sorts of threats and inducements to make him reveal Molly's whereabouts. Shawn's expression became increasingly unpleasant. At that time, Molly, oh yes, Gale knew you took her son away, so she came to the hotel to look for her son. Coincidentally, I saw her the moment I opened the door. I was shocked at the time and my mind was in chaos, so I didn't tell you. Shawn certainly would not believe Joe's lies. Shawn coldly snorted. I remember now. It was your wife who wanted me to keep it a secret. I'm stuck in the middle, torn between two sides. It's not easy for me either, Shawn. You find it difficult? Shawn raised an eyebrow. I see you're all siding Gale. I swear we're like brothers. According to the saying, don't deceive your friend's wife. Joe's words became increasingly absurd and far-fetched. In fact, he was deliberately trying to avoid the topic. However, Shawn was not easy to fool. Joe, at that time, how did Joshua escape from the hotel? He took my key while I was sleeping. Really? All right, I gave him the key, Joe admitted. Shawn asked, when we were chasing him, did you intentionally take the wrong route and lose him? Yes. Seeing that Shawn wanted to continue questioning, Joe quickly interrupted. Well, I had no choice, really. I'm not helping just anyone. I'm helping your wife. After all, you're all one family. In short, Joe did his best to distance himself from the situation to little effect. Shawn's expression remained extremely unpleasant. Joe found out so early on, he even kept it a secret. At that time, Shawn repeatedly went looking for Molly with no result. Every time he went, he faced rejection and disappointment. Unexpectedly, Joe, who opened the door, saw Gale and discovered Joshua's existence. Shawn stared at him dangerously. Joe, you found out Gale was still alive, knew she had a child, and you managed to remain calm after that? Anyone who discovered a person who should have died 4 years ago suddenly appearing would be surprised, panicky, and have a bewildered expression. Joe's calmness was unexpected, and he managed to hide it from him. Therefore, there was only one possibility. Joe already knew that Gale was alive. I... Joe sighed deeply, looking up at the sky. Shawn, I've done two morally questionable things in my life, and you found them both. You found one just now, and now you've found the other. Joe saw a bleak future for himself. He might as well lay his soul bare. Chapter 1525. He was already in trouble, regardless if he said anything. Joe said, I will admit everything. I also knew that 4 years ago, Gale didn't die when she jumped into the sea. Shawn's expression could no longer be described as unpleasant. It was carnivorous. He wished he could devour Joe alive. 4 years ago, you instructed me to investigate why there was suddenly frequent communication between Autumn and Gale, whether they were planning something. Shawn nodded. I didn't trust others, so I specifically instructed you to investigate. You kept saying you couldn't find anything, but actually, you found out that Autumn helped plan Gale's fake death by jumping into the sea, yet chose to hide it from me. Joe remained silent, confirming it. Shawn, smart and quick-witted, connected the dots effortlessly. He had figured it all out. Shawn's expression turned into a deep, oppressive cloud in the hospital room. He suddenly smiled. Joe, what you've done crossed my boundaries and broke my trust. This... Joe could only look at Gale. He was helping her, was he not? She should say something. However, Gale just looked at him. The two stared at each other. I'm struggling to survive. How can I plead for you? Gale whispered. Joe howled. So you're just going to leave me hanging? I helped you, offended Shawn, and now I have to carry this burden? Am I the scapegoat for your marital affairs? Why was he so unlucky? Where was the justice in this? Next to them, Summer was shocked after hearing everything. Joe, you knew early on that Gale didn't die, and she had twins? You chose not to hide it, even keeping it from me? Do you know how sad and miserable I was during that time? She exclaimed. What could I say? Who could I tell? If I told you that Gale didn't die, was rescued after jumping into the sea, and went to live in a strange city, would you think I'm crazy? Joe had a hard time for the past 3 years. He knew everything but could not say anything. He felt relieved now. Everything was in the open. Well, in any case, that's the story. Whether you want to kill or torture, it's up to you. Shawn, take a step back. I was helping your wife, not just a random person. Can't you understand that? Joe said. Shawn ignored him, looking at Summer. When did you find out? Gale told me herself just recently. Summer shrugged. Before Shawn could speak, she hurriedly added, I'm Gale's best friend. Naturally, I'm on her side. I kept her secret. It's perfectly reasonable and justified. No matter what happens, I'll stand by her. I'm not like Joe. He's your brother, and I, at most, consider myself your employee. Joe gritted his teeth. Hey, Summer, don't kick me when I'm down. I'm just telling the truth. Are you trying to sabotage your boyfriend? Summer was quiet. She silently distanced herself from Joe. Maybe it was better to keep some distance between them. Chapter 1526. He reminded her they got together because of the bet. Shawn also knew about that. She had to remove herself from the equation to avoid getting implicated by Shawn. Shawn's gaze moved back and forth between them. After a while, he calmly said, Joe. Yes, Mr. Wood, whatever you order. In appreciation for your wholehearted efforts in keeping secrets for my wife, I wanted to express my gratitude. Joe immediately thought it was bad. Gratitude? After so many years of working together, he still had no idea what was going on in Shawn's mind. No, it's deserved. No, I was forced. Joe kept glancing at Gale, signaling desperately with his eyes. Gale helplessly replied, I'm struggling to survive myself. I can't plead for you. Shawn was settling scores with Joe. After going home, he was going to settle scores with her. No one else could see the miserable state she was in or her pitiful appearance. It was unimaginable. Shawn smiled slightly. I meant to thank you. Why are you panicking? No need to thank me, Mr. Wood. Boss, bro, let me off. Too late. The day before yesterday, Fiona handed me a report. I remember it vividly. It's a research report on mining sites in Synopsis, Shawn said. Synopsis? Mining? Digging? Joe wondered if he would be sent to Synopsis. Just the thought made him shiver. Perfect. That project lacks a person in charge. You'll go. Joe struggled weakly. I'm not really suited. Shawn replied, as the vice president of the company, there's no one more well-suited than you, and you're going. It perfectly reflects our company's importance to this project. Any other president could reflect our importance just as well. No, only you will do. Joe weakly asked, Can I refuse? You can. He was relieved when Shawn added, Then go to the Canadian branch. Spend a month or two there and familiarize yourself with our overseas operations. As soon as he heard that, Joe immediately refused. No, I'd rather go to Synopsis. Is that so? Shawn smiled knowingly. You'd rather go to Synopsis than Canada? Shawn, don't mess with me. Okay, I'll go to Synopsis. I'll buy a plane ticket right away. Fly it out tonight, not even a moment's delay, okay? Joe's attitude underwent a drastic change. Suddenly, he agreed. He was very straightforward about it. Summer was dumbfounded. Are you sure you'd rather go to Synopsis than Canada? Was that a choice a normal person would make? Any person would choose Canada. Synopsis was hot and remote, far from a first world country. Had Joe's brain been smashed into pieces? Yes, go to Synopsis. Baby, I really can't bear to leave you. I don't know when I'll be back. Can we temporarily pause our bets at this moment and continue when I return? Joe nodded repeatedly. They could only be a couple for 1 month. If Joe left and came back, the month would have passed. Chapter 1527. Summer shivered, brushing off the goosebumps on her body. Who's your baby? Oh, are you always so indifferent? You won't even pretend to miss me a little bit? Go then. You said it yourself. Finally, I can have peace of mind. Summer gloated, ecstatic. She was free, too. She did not need to be his darn girlfriend. She was single, happy, and a person who could enjoy her life without any restrictions. Just thinking about it made her happy. Wow, Shawn exiling Joe to Synopsis was just brilliant. She would have to thank Shawn properly for that. Are you sure? Shawn raised an eyebrow. Summer, do you think you can escape? Huh? What did he mean? What was wrong with her? Mr. Wood, I didn't betray you, deceive you, or hide anything like Joe. I am reasonably keeping a secret from you, Summer hurriedly explained. Yes, I know. She breathed a sigh of relief. That's good then. Shawn's smile deepened. So, I appoint you as Joe's deputy. You will accompany him to Synopsis. Summer was dumbfounded, while Joe, who was just disappointed, was suddenly enlightened. Did I hear correctly? Shawn, you want Summer to accompany me to Synopsis? Joe asked. Shawn corrected him. Not accompany you. It's a business trip. It's work. The smile on Joe's face could not be brighter. Right. Work. What a miraculous turn of events. He had already accepted the cruel reality, but unexpectedly, Shawn had an ace up his sleeve. It's work, Summer, a business trip. The two of us will go on a business trip together. There's a high allowance for Synopsis. Joe grinned. Summer was stunned for several seconds before finally coming to her senses. No way! I refuse. I'm not going. she said. What a joke. Did she have to go to Synopsis with Joe? Setting aside whether the work was tough or tiring, thinking about being unfamiliar with the place, only knowing Joe, spending every day with Joe, staying in the same hotel, she felt creepy. There was a feeling of being devoured. This is a work arrangement. Can't help it, Joe said. Hey, why should I go? What did I do to deserve this? Shawn, you're using your power to personal revenge. Summer protested, stomping her foot. Gale, are you not speaking up for Joe or for me? Gale had been watching the show on the side. She had redirected Shawn's anger onto Joe. It was not until Summer called her name that Gale spoke up. Summer, I told you I'm struggling to survive. Maybe Shawn will wave his hand and send me to Synopsis too. I might have to accompany you two and make it a 3-person trip. How is that possible? He won't? Hey, Joe, what are you doing? Before Summer could finish her sentence, Joe was already pulling her out. Go home and pack your bags. The plane ticket is booked, he said. I won't go. Chapter 1528. You have to go, Summer struggled, saying, I won't go. I resigned. I don't want this job anymore. Resigning is fine. I'll support you. You're my girlfriend after all. If you're unemployed, you should accompany your boyfriend on a business trip, Joe replied. Joe, your logic is twisted. The sound of footsteps and the quarrel faded gradually until they could not be heard anymore. Gale chuckled and burst into laughter. Shawn was indeed brilliant. It was beyond her expectations. She thought he was just venting on Joe, but unexpectedly, he gave Joe a slap and followed it up with a sweetener. No matter how tough Synopsis was, it could turn into a great experience with Summer by his side. Shawn created an opportunity for the two of them to be alone and extend their time together. I didn't expect you to do that. I thought you were venting on Joe, sending him to suffer in Synopsis, Gale said. He will go to Synopsis. But you also sent Summer. Shawn raised an eyebrow slightly. That's how it works. If I treated Joe badly, he would definitely resent me and seek revenge in the future. However, by sending Summer along, he won't only not hold a grudge, but he'll also thank me. Yet, Joe genuinely went to Synopsis, and Shawn genuinely vented his anger. What a powerful move! You even thought about the punishment so thoroughly, Gale admired sincerely. Now Joe was happily going to Synopsis. However, you've genuinely offended Summer. Gale looked at him sideways. So what if I offended her? Could Shawn not afford to offend her? Besides, Summer was one of those who concealed Joshua's identity. She should bear part of Shawn's anger. Therefore, Summer had to go to Synopsis. He was punishing her and soothing Joe at the same time, killing two birds with one stone. Gale smirked. She's also petty and vengeful. Well, I have you. If she wants revenge, won't you stop her? Shawn retorted. True, Gale could not just stand by. On one side was her best friend, on the other side was her husband. Who should she help? It was a dilemma. Shawn saw through her thoughts. Gale, don't be too biased. Summer isn't an outsider. Yes, I am an outsider. Everyone is your friend. I'm the only outsider. I don't know anything and have been kept in the dark, Shawn said coldly. These cryptic words made Gale's scalp tingle. No, how could you be an outsider? She quickly flashed a standard 8-tooth smile. You're my husband, my lover, my partner. We're going to live together until we're 80. You're the one who will stay by my side forever." "Those are just words." Gale looked sincere. "I'm speaking from the heart." Shawn glanced at her. "Really? Really? Do you want me to dig out my heart to show you?" Gale continued. If it were before, Shawn might have said, "No need. I know your heart is with me." Chapter 1529. Or he might say, "As long as you love me, it's enough." However, Shawn's response was, "Keep it for now. Dig it out when you have time." Gale was silent. Shawn assessed her from head to toe. After confirming that she was healthy, he wanted to leave. Gale grabbed his sleeve. "Wait. Your injury hasn't been treated yet. Where exactly are you injured?" Strange. She clearly saw Natalie's knife slash across him, but why did the wound seem invisible, like it had vanished? "On my back. Do you still want to see it?" Shawn said. His shirt collar was still open, revealing his collarbone and chest. Further down, well, it was best not to look. Gale averted her gaze. "I'll call a nurse. Wait here." Soon, a nurse came in with a tray. Shawn leisurely unbuttoned and took off his shirt, exposing his upper body. Gale could not help but stare. Slim when dressed, muscular when undressed. Shawn raised his eyes, meeting hers, and said, "Yeah?" Gale quickly looked away, pretending nothing had happened. However, she noticed the nurse next to her blushed at the sight of Shawn's physique. Suddenly, Gale felt possessive. He was her husband. Why should other women see him? Yet, she could not directly express it, so she pointed at Shawn and said, "Turn around. Why are you facing the nurse? The wound is on your back." Only then did he turn slightly. The nurse blushed and prepared alcohol and an antiseptic solution. Occasionally, she glanced at Shawn. Gale noticed all these subtle movements. She felt a bit jealous. Gale also understood why Shawn used to be so jealous, protective, and possessive. If someone even glanced at her, he would get angry. He had strict requirements regarding her clothing, nothing revealing, nothing showing too much of her figure. He would not allow her to wear a swimsuit even at the water park. Previously, Gale did not understand, wondering why Shawn behaved that way. With Shawn removing his clothes and exposing his physique to other women, Gale instantly understood why. It was simply because he wanted to be the only one to see her. Her husband's body was not for others to see, not even a glance. So Gale stepped forward, deliberately blocking the nurse's line of sight. "Hurry up. The wound has been there for a while. It needs to be treated quickly," she urged. The nurse nodded, flustered. Oh, sure." Shawn remained seated, shirtless, silent, but with a faint, teasing smile on his lips. The nurse prepared the medicine and began disinfecting and treating the wound. Gale stood by his side, watching the nurse use a cotton swab to wipe Shawn's back, shoulder blades, honey-colored skin, and well-defined muscles. It felt like he was defenseless against the nurse's gaze. Chapter 1530. She could forgive her if she was just looking. However, the nurse kept touching Shawn. It was unavoidable during the medication process. "It might sting. Mr. Wood, please bear with it," she said. "It's okay. Go ahead." "All right." The nurse tried to be gentle. "Is this pressure okay?" Shawn responded with a simple, "Yes." Gale stood nearby, enduring, repeatedly taking deep breaths. In the end, she could not watch any longer. She snatched the medicine and cotton swab from the nurse. "Let me do it." The nurse's hands froze in midair, staring blankly at her. Gale softened her tone and forced a smile. "I'll do it. Sorry. I've treated my husband's wounds before. I have experience." "Ah, okay, sure. You can leave. I'll call you if needed." The nurse nodded, picked up the tray, and left. As she departed, she looked back with a hint of reluctance. However, Gale blocked her view, and the nurse only saw Gale's back. Once the nurse was gone, Gale immediately said, "You're enjoying this, aren't you?" Shawn's expression remained calm and indifferent. "Gale, I'm injured and in pain. Where's the enjoyment in that?" He pretended to be clueless while understanding everything. He had seen Gale's expression just now. Finally, a rare chance where she finally got to experience what it felt like for him to be jealous. This opportunity does not come every day. "Don't pretend, you know what I mean." "I don't know, Gale." Gale soaked a cotton swab with the medicine. "The nurse is young, pretty, and gentle. You must be happy that she's applying medicine for you, right?" "I was only focused on the pain. Why would I be happy?" "Stop pretending." Gale wished she could press the cotton swab hard onto his wound. "This little injury means nothing to you. When I used to bite you, it was much deeper, and you didn't even wince. So you do know you bit me very hard." "That was a long time ago." Though she spoke harshly, Gale's actions were extremely gentle. Carefully applying the medicine, she murmured, "Why keeping your body in such a good shape? 8-pack abs, biceps, chest muscles. You're a businessman, not a model." Shawn asked, "Do you like it?" "Of course I do," Gale answered unconsciously. After saying it, she felt a bit embarrassed, biting her lower lip. However, she could not take back what was said. Shawn heard it. Well, it was just the two of them there. "As long as you like it, it's enough." Shawn chuckled softly. Gale dared not look at him. "In the future, when there are other women around, please don't undress. You're a married man. Show some decency, okay?" "Decency?" "Yes, be a decent husband." "Tell me how to be a decent husband." To his surprise, Gale immediately answered, "A man needs to follow his wife whenever she goes out, blindly obey when she's wrong, and comply when she commands. You have to also spend money on her generously, endure patiently when the wife is angry, remember her birthday, and wait patiently when she's putting on makeup." She added, "Can you remember that?" Shawn repeated it directly, not missing a single word. His memory was excellent. He could remember things at a glance.